Donald Trump's dark past is coming out as MAGA Mike Johnson has shut down Congress. Let's not forget that now for about 2 weeks, the House of Representatives has been shut down, and we need to focus on what's taking place in the background as well. Democrats in the House Judiciary Committee took a trip to Camp Bryan, the facility where Ghislaine Maxwell was moved to, even though she is a registered child sex trafficker and not allowed to be in Camp Bryan. Recall Donald Trump and Todd Blanche had her moved to this club-fed facility, and something that just emerged as well while Ghislaine Maxwell has been in this facility, the leaders of the Camp Bryan are now being accused of covering up rampant sexual misconduct and sex assault taking place in the facility where Ghislaine Maxwell was moved. Democrats are trying to get to the bottom of it, but now this prison, Camp Bryan, which was previously a club fed, now apparently it's being infected and infested with, with rampant sexual assault allegations being covered up and being perpetrated by potential staff at this facility. They're in a lockdown mode right now. I'll get to that in a moment as well. And we're also now hearing more about what's going on in the White House from that book Regime Change that's coming out by Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan, where Donald Trump is walking around calling Howard Lutnick the P word. We know that Donald Trump in the past said he grabs women by the P word because you're rich and you get away with it. We know that Lutnick was on Epstein Island, shirt buttoned down, seemingly having the time of his life with his little children, which he covered up. We know that Lutnick refused to take the oath when he was supposed to be deposed by the House Oversight Committee. The MAGA Republicans at Donald Trump's demand and at the MAGA Republicans' complicity turned it into an informal interview, as they did with Pam Bondi. But Lutnick now walks around the White House referring to himself as Donald Trump's $25 billion pussy Pete. That's what he goes and calls himself, because he goes, look, I did the tariffs like you wanted me to. I guess I'm your $25 billion P word. And so Donald Trump goes around calling him that in the White House. And we have a lot more I want to dig into here, but it gets even more astonishing than that. We learned this week, and I'm sure you've heard the reports, that there were multiple Situation Room meetings taking place regarding Trump's demand that Epstein be covered up. How big of a deal this was, like one of the biggest issues leading up to Trump's invasion of Iran with Netanyahu. I mean, right up until the war started. And obviously it's been covered up since then, but this was a major topic of the Situation Room. J.D. Vance was saying how he was now legitimately worried that someone may have recorded the White House Situation Room meetings that were being discussed here, where the White House was in, quote, freak out mode over the Epstein files. And now they think that there were people in there who were potentially taping it. And this also comes at the same time where a former Israeli intelligence officer, Ari Ben Manasseh, says that Netanyahu potentially has recordings and files. Not sure if it's referring to what could have went down in the Situation Room right now, but saying that Netanyahu has recordings and files, and this is a former Israeli intelligence officer saying that. And of course, Donald Trump taking a lot of heat even from his MAGA base, with people like Joe Rogan saying, where the F are these damn files? Where the F is everything that you promised? Oh, and also notable, we expect that in the next 48 hours or so, Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the UK, is going to resign. The Epstein file seems to have been the final straw that will topple Keir Starmer from his political party and from being the prime minister there in the UK. We recall that the ambassador to the United States was all over the Epstein files and was picked by Starmer's chief of staff because of his closeness with Donald Trump, because they were all part of that cabal together in the 90s and the 2000s that hung out with Epstein, and that Starmer knew this. So by all accounts, it seems that this is what a senior government figure told the Telegraph. Keir Starmer was realizing that the game is up, and now he wants to shore up his legacy. Starmer is expected to resign on Monday. And, just think about what brought him down there. I mean, there was a lot of factors, of course, but one of the main factors was the Epstein files and him picking somebody who was very much involved. You see, in other countries, they take the stuff very seriously. Let me go to what happened this past week that didn't get anywhere near the attention it deserves. And this comes from Democratic Congress member Jamie Raskin, who is the ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee. After staff visit to Ghislaine Maxwell's prison camp, ranking member Raskin and Garcia, Congress member Garcia, who is the ranking member of the House Oversight Committee, slammed Todd Blanche and Trump for their continued cover-up of Maxwell's preferential treatment. So Jamie Raskin and Garcia's staff went to Camp Bryan, the federal prison camp facility, the Club Fed that Ghislaine Maxwell was moved to. She was previously in Tallahassee. Here's what Raskin says. Today, investigators from our committee traveled to FPC Bryan, where Ghislaine Maxwell serving her sentence, despite Bureau of Prison policies barring sex offenders, and she's a child sex offender, from the minimum security facility absent a special waiver. We went to Camp Bryan seeking answers about Miss Maxwell's unprecedented transfer and VIP treatment. While the Camp Bryan staff provided an extensive tour of the grounds and programming of the facility, Bureau of Prisons leadership repeatedly shut down our lines of questioning or could not provide basic information about our central concerns, including Miss Maxwell's extraordinary treatment, allegations of sexual assault at the facility, and retaliation against inmates who tried to blow the whistle. We also have serious concerns about the accuracy and veracity of information received by our investigative staff. The American people are tired of seeing the Trump administration pamper a child sex trafficker and obstruct Congress's investigation into Attorney General Blanche's role in ensuring Miss Maxwell remains comfortable and quiet. The investigation will continue. Now, these sexual assault allegations that are now in Camp Bryan emerged after Ghislaine Maxwell was moved to this facility. Whistleblowers brought them part of a broader pattern of misconduct. And here's what's being alleged. These are allegations. Multiple women, at least 6 to 8 interview, describe being pressured into unwanted sex acts in areas without cameras, closets, chapels, hallways. Examples include groping, forced oral sex, breast genital touching, grooming with gifts privileges. Special staff accused include, these are accusations that are being made. Repeated abuse in the chapel, teacher education staffer, medical professional staffers there, correctional officer staffers there, lots of people, a broader culture right there now taking place of fear, intimidation, and retaliation right there. And all of this came to light as Ghislaine Maxwell is there. What else is going on this week about Donald Trump's dark past surfacing? Amanda Ungaro, who was Paolo Zampoli's girlfriend and mother of the child with Zampoli. Zampoli's an ambassador for the United States right now. He's responsible for like all of the kind of diplomatic events and trips, but it's an ambassadorship title. He had his ex-girlfriend, Ungaro, who he's with for a long time. Apparently, she alleges that he expedited her deportation to Rio de Janeiro as a result of the custody fight that they have, and that he used ICE. She denies it. She's out there making a lot of serious accusations against Melania and Melania's past and what she and Paolo were really doing here, which Paolo denies. Enough with the vicious lies, conspiracies, and disparaging attacks against our marvelous First Lady. The truth is in the records. Melania Trump is the most elegant, graceful, intelligent First Lady, Paolo Zampoli says. A true icon of strength, dignity, and class. Notice to social media activists. Most of the content coming from Amanda is AI manipulated. Our legal team is monitoring. And so now, I guess, the Trump regime's plan with Zampoli is to say that there's all this AI manipulation of these connections and we shouldn't be focused on them. But do you see all the stuff that's going on behind the scenes right now? I know that a lot of people are rightfully focused on, is there a deal? Is the deal off? Is the Strait of Hormuz open? Is the Strait? We're covering that. We're on the front lines covering that. And I know there's a lot of focus on the reflecting pool, which is a metaphor for the Trump regime right now. And I get it. And I know that the attention needs to be spent, of course, on the suffering of the American people and the fact that American people can't afford gas and can't afford groceries and can't afford anything and can't afford rent, and people are going bankrupt and struggling and are psychologically tortured. I think it's also important to never forget that this regime, this Trump regime, is involved in their pedoprotectors. I mean, that's how sick are they? They're involved in covering up child sex trafficking at the highest level. The cabal is in the White House right now, and that's one of the reasons why they got involved in this unlawful and catastrophic war in the first place, because they wanted to cover up that the walls were closing in on the Epstein files. And so to me, it's also not a shocker that yet again, MAGA Mike shut down Congress. Congress has barely worked this year, right? I mean, have they been in session at all? I understand in election years, they go home and they do more campaigning, but they've been gone so much this year. And I think one of the reasons MAGA Mike keeps shutting the House down again is to cover all this stuff up, because again, things were moving very, very quickly. And then we got into catastrophic wars and all this cover up taking place. But MAGA Mike did have time to call up the Scott Jennings, the MAGA propagandist who goes on CNN. And then MAGA Mike and Scott Jennings had conversations about baseball players and like wearing pride hats. Here, let's play this clip.
You're one of the strongest Christians in Congress. You stand up for people who practice the Christian faith. Are you concerned that baseball is cracking down on players who simply want to show a small gesture of their values out there when they're being forced to wear these pride markings on their uniforms?
I'm very concerned about it. It's America's pastime. Baseball is a great American game, and the idea that they would be censoring religious viewpoints when we know in the past they have allowed other messages on caps and all of that. These guys stood up for their conviction.
More from MAGA Mike Johnson right here. Let's play this clip right here.
We are trying to determine, you and I are trying to hold, Republicans in Congress trying to hold the republic, the constitutional republic we have. The Democrats want to trade us in for some sort of communist utopian quest. We cannot go down that road. It never ends well in history. And the people that are cheering for that and advocating for it are those that we must crush in the election cycle.
And that's what MAGA Mike's doing as he's shutting down Congress. But going back to what the former Israeli intelligence officer, Ari Benashi, says, here's what he says. Let's play this clip.
If there's a real deal between the Americans and the Iranians, and it's going towards that, Netanyahu will try to sabotage it. One of the ways he'd sabotage it is by putting out Epstein material against U.S. government officials, including Trump. And he put it out there. New material that wasn't seen before in public.
So it's not just Trump. I know that Howard Lutnick is mentioned. There are other officials.
Not just Trump, other officials too. Yes.
And here's what Joe Rogan had to say about this all. Let's play this clip.
Well, sometimes it's like you just get fed up. You're like, where the fuck are these Epstein files?
Yeah.
Who the fuck is this? Why is this redacted? Yeah. Where is it? Who the fuck killed JFK?
Right.
Like, come out with it. What the fuck? Who fucking killed Charlie Kirk for real?
Yeah.
Like, what is that? Why is that fucking story so clouded in mystery? And why did they pave over the fucking ground right after the shooting? What the fuck is going on there?
See, now you're making me in a bad mood.
It's easy to do.
Now we also have Democratic Congress member who has been leading the release of the Epstein files, along with Congressmember Garcia Ro-Khanna. Here's what he had to say. Play this clip.
Congressman, I want to ask you first about one of the bits of reporting
in that piece that was about the fact that they had discovered that, contrary to repeated things that Donald Trump had said, that he was never on the plane. That was like a real go-to line of his, going all the way back to 2015. These people were on the plane, I was never on the plane. That in a January 2020 email, a federal prosecutor told a colleague Trump had actually flown on Epstein's private jet, far more than anyone knew. Flight records in the files showed at least 8 trips between 93 and 96, sometimes with his second wife, Marla Maples, sometimes with his children. In January 2024, Trump declared he had never been on the plane. Did you know that when you were sort of pushing for this transparency?
No, I didn't. Even in Watergate, you didn't have the vice president sitting with the attorney general in the Situation Room saying we need to cover this up. That there are documents that could be incriminating for the president, that we have a real problem not releasing these files, and then contemplating what they can do to make sure that Donald Trump doesn't lose his base. And, you know, when Massey and I were doing this, we honestly didn't think it would have this kind of political ramifications. I mean, we understood the impact on survivors, but obviously they did. And they were in a panic mode, which neither Massey or I realized the extent of.
And Jen Shah, who was there in Camp Ryan with Ghislaine Maxwell, she gave an interview to People, and here's what she had to say as well. Let's play it.
Another high-profile prisoner was Ghislaine Maxwell. Did you have any interactions with her?
I had interactions with her, limited interactions with her. I worked at Recreation, right? And so she would come in and work at Recreation, work out. But her experience there is very different from anyone else's, even Elizabeth and I. She is treated very differently there. And, I didn't have a lot of interaction with her. It was just on a very, she would come over and talk to us, or I would see her if she would, come by Recreation. But, and honestly, I chose that. I chose to have very limited interaction with her. She made it very publicly known, well, at least to, Elizabeth and I, that there's no remorse there. And again, I obviously don't know all the details of the case or whatever, but we know enough. It was a lot when the victims would be on TV and talking. She was just complete disregard for them, and this is when they are pouring their hearts out in front of Congress and for this files to be released and stuff. And so to see that kind of behavior when there are real victims that you're seeing and what they've gone through, and to be so dismissive of that just didn't sit with me the right way.
So there you have it, folks. Let me know what you think about all of this. As the House is shut down, that's what's going down. And obviously, it's related. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million. Thanks for watching. New Meidas merch. Head to store.MeidasTouch.com today and get yourself the best pro-democracy gear and show your support. That's store.MeidasTouch.com.